Okay, so we're taking a look at sum and difference identities in this section here. And we're first looking at sine of 11 pi over 12. Well, we're looking at a sine either sum or a sine difference. And so I'm thinking here, you could go either way with this. You could do a difference. And I'm going to approach this with a difference, but you can also do a sum. You just have to look at the unit circle and find values that will give you 11 pi over 12, either when added or subtracted. In this case, I'm going to use this subtraction identity. And so let's go ahead and zoom in on the circle. And let's find some values that will give us 11 pi over 12, which is what we were looking for. So let's see here. If I take a look at, suppose, 7 pi over 6, and let's say pi over 4, where is that? Right about here. So if I look at 7 pi over 6 and pi over 4, 7 pi over 6 minus pi over 4. Now again, I've already figured this out beforehand, but you can just work with any of the numbers and you'll figure it out. It's not too bad. Okay, so 7 pi over 6 pi over 4. I'm going to multiply this one by 2 so that I have a common denominator of 12, and this one by 3 so that I'll have that same common denominator. This gives me 14 pi out of 12 and 3 pi out of 12, which the difference is 11 pi out of 12. So that's what I was looking for, and I'm going to end up using these two numbers right here in order to solve this problem. So let's go ahead and zoom out and focus in on this area right here, sine of 11 pi over 12. So I've already picked my numbers, and I'm going to let me go ahead and move all of this out. Let's see here. Move all of this over. Actually, I can't do that, so let's just write it out over here. Let's switch pens. We're going to say this is the sine of 7 pi over 6 minus pi over 4. And this right here is going to be our A, and this right here is going to be our B, and I guess I used the magic marker on accident there. So let's see here. This is how we write it out. Sine 7 pi over 6. We're using this one right here. Cosine pi over 4 minus, and then now this cosine 7 pi out of 6, and then sine of pi over 4. Now we have set up using this identity right here, and that's what we went ahead and filled in here and here. All right, now these are known values from the unit circle. So if you look at sine of 7 pi over 6, that's this right here, negative 1/2. So I'm going to write that in, negative 1/2. And then the cosine of pi over 4 is this right here, which is the square root of 2 over 2. So I'm going to write that right here. Minus the cosine of 7 pi over 6. So the cosine is this right here, negative square root of 3 over 2. And then the sine of pi over 4 is this right here, square root of 2 over 2. So let's go ahead and write that out. And now it's pretty simple. It's just arithmetic. So really no more pre-calculus, no more trigonometry, just some simple arithmetic. We end up with the negative square root of 2 over 4. And let's see here. Negative and a negative makes for positive. Square root of 3, square root of 2, and I'm going to leave it like that, all over 4. Now we're going to leave it like that. This right here, sometimes you may see like this written as the square root of 6. Okay, but in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually factor out the square root of 2. I'm going to factor out the square root of 2 there, and I'm going to leave it as -1 plus the square root of 3, all divided by 4. So I will write this as my answer for this very first problem. Okay, so notice again, we're making use of this identity right here, all right, which was the sign difference. Now, let's work on another problem. All right, this one will be a lot easier because we're going to be working with degrees. So the cosine of 165 degrees. So this should be fairly easy. Let's go ahead and do a cosine sum. So we just need 2 degree measures that add up to give you 165. You could do 120 and 45. That would work. I'm going to do 135 and 30. That should be good. 135 and 30, and I'm going to do a cosine sum. So let's go ahead and write that out. Okay, so let's move that there. 135 and 30. All right, we're going to use the cosine sum identity, which is this one right here. And again, this is our A and this is our B. And let's see, we're going to say the cosine in this case of 135 times the cosine of 30 minus the sine of 135 and the sine of 30. Looks something like that. Now let's take a look at our unit circle, figure out cosine of 135. Cosine of 135 is this guy right here, the negative square root of 2 over 2. Let's write that out. Negative square root of 2 over 2. And then the cosine of 30 is this guy right here, square root of 3 over 2. Right there. Minus the sine of 135. The sine of 135 is this one, the square root of 2 over 2. And then the sine of 30, which is right here, 1/2. There we go. So now we again do the arithmetic. We're going to have a negative square root of 2 square root of 3 over 4 minus a square root of 2 over 4. Looks something like that. And again, I'm going to factor out a negative square root of 2. In parenthesis, I will have, let's see, square root of 3 plus 1, all divided by 4. And I will box this as my answer for my cosine sum identity. So it's really easy. Again, this requires you to know these identities and have a working knowledge of how to utilize the unit circle. So you're going to have to, if you're working out problems like this, be sure you have your unit circle handy so that you can easily answer these questions. Otherwise, it's very straightforward in applying the identities. So good luck.